Hello everyone, I'm Keziah, and joining me today is Warren Tusk, the creator and brains behind his Kickstarter project, The New Tarot.
Hi there.
Warren, thank you for joining us. I have to say, when I got your project, I read about it, I was super excited. This is something that is kind of a hobby of mine. How did you come up with this idea for this project?
Well, I've been interested in tarot for a long time. I actually started learning about it when I was 13 or 14, and I went to my friends' bar mitzvahs, and for better or for worse, they tended to have tarot readers there. Mm-hmm. And I looked at the various cards, and I did some research, and I thought, these are really powerful symbols. The person who came up with this was some kind of genius who really understood the human condition. I want to be that guy. I want to invent something like this. Mm-hmm. Well, you can't invent it. It's already been invented.
Yes.
So I, much later, started thinking about what new symbols could be if you wanted to create some sort of alternative to the tarot, and to figure out how that would be useful.
And what age did you start thinking about these new symbols?
I've been thinking about these for about 5 years. I was probably 21, 22.
Okay, awesome. And so when did you decide to go forth with this project and actually create these new tarot? Well, actually, let's talk about your project, because I think a lot of people are still wondering what it is. It's actually a sequel to the original tarot cards. So can you explain that to us?
It's an oracle deck, like many that are produced. It's a deck of cards that are meant to be read. Unlike most oracle decks, it's actually very closely structured around the form of the classic tarot. And as she said, it's actually meant to be a sequel to the classic tarot. It's got its own set of major arcana, which are numbered from 22, where the major arcana of the tarot proper leave off, to 42, and then 4 new suits of minor arcana, for 77 cards total.
Okay, and so since this is a sequel, what does it entail? How is it different from the original deck?
Well, the classic tarot is often understood to be a sort of fool's journey, that as you go through the cards, it's describing a process in which you learn to understand yourself and you come towards enlightenment and self-mastery and self-knowledge. The new tarot is a second leg of that journey, or it's meant to be. It's more outward focused. It's about interacting with other people once you've come to understand with yourself, doing work, achieving your goals, and exploring the wider world.
And how did you come up with this idea?
I do tarot readings for friends sometimes. My friends do tarot readings for each other. Mm-hmm. And when the cards are about understanding your feelings, understanding yourself, this sort of mystical, internal, inward-looking process, they're very powerful and they're very sharp and on target. But when you're asking them questions about anything more externally focused, what are other people doing, how should I interact with them, they tend to get a lot more allegorical and often more frustrating. And I thought it would be good if there were a deck more attuned to those kinds of questions and better calibrated to deal with them.
Oh, wow. Okay, and so what were your steps on starting this project and creating these new cards? What was your influence for these specific cards?
Well, the influence was a combination of me thinking, all right, what are the steps towards the journey? What are the steps in the journey towards achieving your dreams once you've mastered yourself? What do you have to deal with? Whom do you have to struggle with? What tools do you need to overcome your challenges? And trying to think about individual symbols, what's powerful, what will mean something to people.
Oh, wow. And so what is your background with sorcery as far as you explain? As a kid, you kind of played around with it, but did you go to college? Did you study in college at all?
I did go to college. I concentrated in religion and in folklore and mythology, and so I had to do my thesis on both of those topics, and the intersection of those topics, it turns out, involves a lot of people doing magic. So I wrote my thesis on Kabbalah and on the magic of John Dee, the English cryptographer sorcerer, mm-hmm. and I'm not part of any sorcerer's tradition. I'm not a practitioner, but mm-hmm. It's certainly been a study topic and a hobby of mine for a very, very long time.
Awesome. So do you do tarot card readings?
For fun, yeah.
For fun, okay. What do you think about them? I mean, do you think that people should take this guidance, or is it just more for entertainment?
Well, there's a complicated spectrum between the amount of seriousness with which some people invest in the tarot and entertainment. As I said, the tarot, certainly the proper tarot, and I would hope my tarot, are full of symbols that are meant to encapsulate the most fundamental parts of the human condition and the human journey. Mm-hmm. And even if there's nothing intrinsically supernatural or sorcerous about the cards, if you do a reading for yourself, because you're playing around with those symbols and finding different patterns of them, you can come to some interesting conclusions about what those symbols have to tell you about the situation you're in.
So
I think it's a worthwhile thing to do, whatever you choose to believe about them.
Mm-hmm. Cool, awesome. So let's talk about Leslie Minns. She is Leslie Minnis. She is actually the painter, or she's actually going to be creating the cards. You've designed them, and she's going to be painting them.
Yes.
How did you find her, and how did you start working with her?
I found her online, and I was looking for an artist for this project. I don't have a pre-existing relationship with her. I've never actually met her personally, but I really lucked into her because she is amazing, and I could not have possibly expected to get an artist that good simply casting about randomly, which is what I was doing.
So what was her reaction when you proposed the project to her?
She said, "It sounds like a really interesting project, and I'd like to be involved if you can make it happen."
That's awesome.
So I'm trying to make it happen.
So, you explain some of the additional cards. You say the suit of keys, suit of chains, mass, and tums. Can you explain basically what some of these are, or give us like some detail on how you would use them?
Sure. Well, you would use them, in theory, the way you would use any cards in a tarot deck. You shuffle them up, you lay a selection out before you in whatever pattern you're choosing to read from. The new tarot can be read on its own, and it's actually meant to be read on its own. But if you want, you can also shuffle it in together with a classic tarot deck for a larger and more complex suite of possible readings. Just as the four suits of the classic tarot are the sort of very elemental tools you need to master yourself, they're representing physicality and emotion and mind and will. The suits of the new tarot represent these somewhat more complex tools that in theory you need to interact with other people successfully and to achieve your goals. So keys represents discovery and innovation and new ideas, and tomes represents knowledge and expertise and also imagination and the power to create new knowledge. Masks represents identity and social role, your ability to step into a particular identity in others' eyes and in your own eyes. And chains is about social bonds. It's the chains of obligation between people who are allied, people who dominate each other, people who support each other.
Mm-hmm. So these cards that you've created, the additional ones, when do you think somebody should get a reading using your additional cards? Because it is kind of like a more futuristic kind of thing of where it talks about career and, talking to people and interacting with people, as opposed to original, it's more self-within. So do you think that there should be a separate time and place for that reading, or should you be able to read it all at a young age?
Well, I don't think that it's about using the new tarot once you've mastered the old tarot or something like that. Mm-hmm. They are, although they can be used together, as I said, they are meant to be used for different circumstances. If the thing you want to find out about, if the question you're asking the deck or the universe or however you choose to look at it is about yourself, what do I really want? How do I become the person I want to be? Then the symbols that will be most useful to you are in the classic tarot. Mm-hmm. If your questions are, how do I deal with this person? How do I get what I want? How do I make my mark on the world in the way I want to? Then, in theory, the new tarot is designed to have symbols that will be more useful to you for that.
Gotcha. Awesome. And so since these are newer cards, do you think people who do tarot card reading should be trained on these? Or is it just something that they will have naturally because they've been working with tarot cards and readings?
Well, the tarot deck has been around for centuries and is a mainstay.
Your new tarot deck is new to us and new to card readers.
It is. So my point is, do I think all tarot practitioners should start using the new tarot or even will necessarily want to? Not necessarily. I think a lot of people will find it helpful. I certainly hope so. And I hope that there are practitioners and tarot collectors who find it a worthy addition to the tools that they work with or collect. Mm-hmm. There are a number of oracle decks out there that are alternative sorts of cards you can read to the tarot. This is in that genre, in that tradition. And I think it's an interesting and helpful addition to that tradition because although it's not the tarot, it is very much like the tarot. It has the same structure as the tarot and is meant to be used in a very similar way.
Awesome. Well, this is very interesting. We'll be right back after this break.